这个故事如果你听起来不累，那么你的听力水平在生活中是完全够用的。要持续提升英文，记得点击订阅按钮。我们开始吧。
The fire in the town square would not go out, and neither would the question. Long ago, before news moved fast and before people could search for answers on a small bright screen, a town had only one way to share big news. They lit a fire in the center of the square. The flame meant something needed to be heard. When smoke rose into the sky, people left their homes, their shops, their fields. They came running. One dry summer, the river grew thin and slow. Fish floated on top, and the crops bent low. The town felt fear in its chest. Each night the leaders met near the fire. They spoke in low voices. The flame burned high, but no answer came. People stood around the fire and asked the same thing again and again. Why is the river dying? What will we drink? What will we feed our kids? The heat from the fire matched the heat in their words. The question felt hot. It would not rest. It pushed into every talk at every table. It slipped into dreams. Even when the fire burned down to red coals, the question still burned in their minds. An old teacher named Mara watched all this. She had taught many of the town's adults when they were small. She knew that fear can spread like sparks in dry grass. One night she stepped closer to the fire. Her voice was not loud, but it was steady. "This is our burning question," she said, pointing at the flame. "It burns because we care. It burns because it needs an answer." People grew quiet. The words fit the moment. The fire was real. The worry was real. From that night on, when someone spoke about the river, they called it the burning question. The phrase stuck like ash on cloth. The story of that summer traveled beyond the town. A trader heard it and carried it to the next village. He told them how the people stood by a fire and faced their burning question. In time, the river came back after heavy rain in the hills. The crops rose again. The town did not forget the fear, or the fire, or the name they gave to their deepest worry. Years rolled on. The fire in the square became a small lamp. Then it became a bell. When the bell rang, people still said, "There must be a burning question." The words no longer meant real flames. They meant a problem so strong, so urgent, that it felt hot in the heart. Centuries later, in a busy city far away, a young reporter named Eli sat at a wooden desk. Papers were stacked high. Ink stained his fingers. The city had grown fast, and not all growth was good. Smoke from factories hung in the air. Kids coughed on their way to school. Eli heard people argue in the streets. Some said the smoke meant jobs. Some said it meant danger. Eli felt a heat in his chest each time he saw a child wipe soot from her face. He could not shake it. He tried to write about small things, about parades and markets. Yet the same thought kept rising. Why are we letting this happen? One late night he walked past a print shop. Inside, a group of workers stood around a small stove to keep warm. They were talking fast. "The burning question is the smoke," one man said. "We need clean air." Eli stopped. The old phrase had found a new home. No fire in a town square. No river running dry. Still, the feeling was the same. A question so urgent that it felt like heat under the skin. He wrote an article and used those words in bold type. The burning question of our city is the air our children breathe. The paper sold out by noon. People clipped the line and pinned it on walls. Some were angry. Some were thankful. The city council called a meeting. The debate grew loud. For weeks it seemed nothing would change. Then a small moment shifted everything. A factory worker stood up at the meeting and held up a jar of gray water from his tap. He did not shout. He only said, "My son drinks this." The room fell silent. The heat of the question moved from paper into faces and hands. Laws began to change. It took time, but the smoke thinned. The phrase kept traveling. Teachers used it in class. Parents used it at dinner. Radio hosts used it on air. It crossed oceans. It slipped into books. Each time it showed up, it carried the same sense of heat and need. In a small school many years later, a shy girl named Anna sat in the back row. Math felt hard. Words felt heavy in her mouth. She had one thought she was afraid to say. "Why do I feel so alone even in a full room?" That was her burning question. No one else could see the flame, yet it warmed and hurt at the same time. She almost kept it hidden. Then one day the teacher asked everyone to write down a question they could not stop thinking about. Anna's hand shook, but she wrote it. When the teacher read the notes, she did not laugh. She did not brush it away. She said many people carry that same burning question. She asked the class to talk about times they felt alone. Hands went up. Stories spilled out. The room changed. Anna felt the heat turn into light. The phrase began with real fire, with smoke in the sky and fear in dry fields. It moved through streets filled with factory smoke. It reached into a quiet classroom. The shape of the question changed, yet the burn stayed the same. A burning question is not just a hard question. It is one that will not let you rest. It taps on your shoulder while you eat. It sits at the edge of your bed at night. It asks to be faced. You have one too. Maybe it is about your work. Maybe it is about love. Maybe it is about who you want to become. You might try to push it down. You might tell yourself it can wait. Still, it glows. The people in the old town walked toward the fire instead of away from it. The reporter wrote what many feared to say. The shy girl put her question on paper. None of them knew the end when they began. They only knew the heat was real. Your burning question can scare you, yet it can also guide you. Heat can destroy, but it can also cook food and give light in the dark. When you name the question, when you say it out loud, you turn wild flame into a lamp you can carry. The fire in the town square is long gone. The bell is silent. The old print shop has closed. Still, somewhere right now, someone feels that same heat in the chest. A question is rising. It is waiting to be faced. And maybe, as you listen to this story, you can feel your own burning question flicker. It is not there to harm you. It is there to lead you toward change.
能以非母语者的身份专注学习到现在，这本身就是很棒的进步。真诚感谢你的观看。如果你觉得本期内容实用，点赞或留言让我知道你的想法，这对我持续创作非常重要。我们下期见。